Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of College Ball with Beans. Today, we're going to talk about the Big 12 and how's the Big 12 going to shake out this year. You know, they got 4 new teams last season with Utah, BYU, UCF, and Houston. This year, they get 4 more teams in the 4 corner schools: Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State. I believe that that Utah is going to be in the Big 12 championship game. I see them as the team to beat. Starting quarterback coming back next season. They have really been a very good football team under their head coach, and last year was a down year and they won 8 games. So the real question for me is, who's that number 2 team? Who's that other team who's going to be playing against Utah in Arlington for the Big 12 championship? And that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about, some of the teams I have who I think could potentially compete for that spot. But also we're going to talk about some teams who I don't think are going to make it, but could surprise us because they're kind of an up and down programs. Some years they compete, other years they don't, but the years they compete, they're usually making a push to get to Arlington. The first team we're going to talk about on that list is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Oklahoma State struggled last season. I believe they started 2-3 and then really turned it around. The Pokes really turned it around, strung some good wins together, beating Kansas. I believe they beat Kansas State last season. They return All-American Doak Walker award-winning running back Ollie Gordon. He's the best running back in the country. And can he lead Florida State to their first ever Big 12 Conference Championship game? They got close last season, getting to the Big 12 championship game. They just ran into a buzzsaw that was the Texas Longhorns. That's twice in recent memory that the Oklahoma State Cowboys have gotten to the Big 12 championship game, and they haven't been able to finish. That first time they made it, they lost on a goal line stand. This last December, it was more of a blowout against the University of Texas. But can Mike Gundy turn it around for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, or is Gundy gonna Gundy? Is he gonna be less than inspired? Is his team gonna come out flat this year? It's a possibility. Oklahoma State does that from time to time. But if Oklahoma State comes out on fire and they stay on fire, you could see the Oklahoma State Cowboys in the Big 12 championship game. But again, if Gundy's gonna Gundy, you never know. The University of Arizona, they really impressed last season, and that is due to that freshman quarterback who is returning, but they lost their head coach to the University of Washington after Kalen DeBoer took the job at Bama. Can Arizona keep the momentum going with a new head coach? We'll see what happens, but it's massive that they were able to keep their quarterback and wide receiver connection, and most of their team stayed put there in Arizona. We'll see what happens there with the Wildcats and see if they can compete for the Big 12 title. I don't really see Arizona competing this year with the first-year head coach. I see them stepping back a bit, and honestly, I could maybe even see Colorado overstepping the Arizona Wildcats just for this year, just because of the new coach. New head coach, new offensive play caller, things like that, things of that nature. The University of Kansas. The big question for KU is, 1, can they handle not having any true home games this season due to their stadium being under renovation? University of Kansas is putting a lot of money into that stadium and that facility. I really commend KU for that, really trying to build that football program. And that head coach is really taking those steps in the right direction, pointing KU in the right way. They've been competitive. They were competitive last year. They started out 5-0 the year before. KU is coming. They're on their way up. And the real question, for a team standpoint, is can Jalen Daniels, their starting quarterback, stay healthy for a full season? We've seen him be special in some games, but when he gets hurt, you don't have Jason Bean right there backing him up anymore. So it'll really be interesting to see if they can keep Jalen healthy and keep him going. And they have to win the Sunflower Showdown this season. They have to beat Kansas State if they really want to have any shot of getting to Arlington and playing for their first ever Big 12 championship in football. I don't believe the Jayhawks have ever played for the Big 12 title game in football. So that would be really cool if the Jayhawks could compete and play for their first ever Big 12 championship game. I think it would be really cool if it was like a KU Oklahoma State Big 12 championship game. Then it's a guarantee whoever wins the game, it's going to be a first ever Big 12 champion. I think that'd be really special and draw quite a few eyeballs. Another team I'm going to talk about, kind of that team that's always there, always competing. They were always a thorn in the side of the University of Texas. They were always just there. No matter how much you beat on them, they never die and they never quit. And that's the Kansas State Wildcats. They're in Lawrence, Kansas. They're in Manhattan, Kansas, excuse me. And over there in Manhattan, man, they're tough. They always have a tough defense. That run game's always strong. And can they just keep pushing? They won the Big 12 2 years ago, and they lost a lot. Deuce Vaughn was really good for that team. And can they rekindle that magic? They've got a really good quarterback. The run game's always good. Kansas State, I think, is going to finish, top 3, top 4 in the conference. It's just a question of, can they get over the hump again? Can they essentially beat the teams they're supposed to beat and maybe pull off an upset or two, which Kansas State usually pulls off an upset or two. And without Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12 is wide open this season, folks. I mean, to be honest with you, Utah might not even make this conference. It's going to have so much parity and so many upsets, I believe. It's going to be nuts. And some other teams that I think could make a run for that number 2 spot, but I doubt it. That would be the Iowa State Cyclones. Matt Campbell's always got a tough team up there. Ames, Iowa is one of the toughest places to play in the conference. Some Big 12 fans will tell you it is impossible to win in Ames, Iowa, and it's really hard to do. They've upset the University of Texas in Ames. They've upset Oklahoma in Ames. They've upset essentially everybody in that stadium. And can Iowa State just put it together? They've had some great teams. They've had some great runs at it. And Iowa State is another team I could see maybe making life interesting on some of the other schools out there. TCU with Sonny Dykes. They had a down year. They lost a lot from that team that got blown out by Georgia in the college football national championship game. But can they get it rolling? I see TCU being an 8-4 team, but maybe they can pull off some upsets and really play spoiler for some of these other teams. And the last Big 12 team I'm going to talk about that I think could surprise us, this coach took over when the team was 1-11. You already know who I'm talking about. And then his first year they go 4-8, and that's Deion Sanders. I've said I think he's crazy for saying that they could for sure be a playoff team. And it would surprise me if Colorado made the Big 12 title game and won. But they do have some potential. They would need some things to happen, some crazy games. They would have to pull some upsets, obviously. But can Shedeur and Travis Hunter put it together on the field? And at times they were special last season. They were fun to watch. And then it just seemed like the wheels fell off. Travis Hunter played a ridiculous amount of snaps, and you could almost just see it. Like, he was tired. He got gassed at the end of the year. And it'll be interesting to see if Dion does that again, where Travis plays wide receiver and corner, two positions where you run the most. Like, those positions you are constantly running if you play wide receiver and corner. So we'll see what happens. Colorado did rebuild that O-line. They got a really good commit from the high school ranks, and they went into the transfer portal. Colorado loves to use that transfer portal to retool things. But ultimately, I do think the conference championship game for the Big 12 is going to be Utah and Oklahoma State. And I think the Pokes are going to get it done. I think, as of right now, I think Ollie Gordon and the Oklahoma State Pokes are going to probably win the Big 12 and probably be in the college football playoff. Utah is going to be a tough out. Utah could very well beat the Cowboys, but we'll see what happens. Don't forget that's going to be it for this video. Don't forget, hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want to. Don't forget, hook 'em.